Hey, it's Jeff Zito, and thank you so much for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast, number 2 this week on the Apple Podcast Music Interviews chart. All past episodes are online at celebrityjobber.com. Please subscribe. Would love a 5-star rating and leave a review. We talk to celebrities about who and what they were before they became famous. What led them down this path? What was their big break, their first job? Sometimes we find out that there are other jobs that these people do that are not very public, which we are about to find out today. My guest was born in Canada, but grew up in Michigan, has dual citizenship between Canada and the United States, and is the lead singer of a very famous rock band by the name of Pop Evil. His name is Leigh Kakaty, and we've been friends for a good amount of time. And he's a pretty private guy with his personal life. And what you're about to hear today is Leigh opening up and telling us a lot about himself, growing up, how Pop Evil all came to be, talk a little bit about his family. And I got to tell you, I was kind of amazed by some of the things I learned today, because during the 15 years or so that we've been friends, never got that deep and personal with him before. So just like me, you're going to find out a lot about my guest today. By the way, I want you to check out their new album, What Remains, in stores now. Lead singer of the rock band Pop Evil, Leigh Kakaty, is my guest this week on Celebrity Jobber.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, give a 5-star rating, and leave a review. Check out all our past episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you pod. What if these celebrities weren't famous? What would they have become? What was their first job? We're about to find out.
6 months from now, you could be running a 5K, booking that dream trip, or seeing thicker, fuller hair every time you look in the mirror. Through Hers, you can get dermatologist-trusted, clinically proven prescriptions with ingredients that go beyond what over-the-counter products offer. Whether you prefer oral or topical treatments, Hers has you covered. Getting started is simple. Just fill out an intake form online, and a licensed provider will recommend a customized plan just for you. The best part? Everything is 100% online. If prescribed, your treatment ships right to your door. No pharmacy trips, no waiting rooms, and no insurance headaches. Plus, treatments start at just $35 a month. Start your initial free online visit today at forhers.com/talk. That's forhers.com/talk. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information.
I think we could call each other friends, right? We've known each other for a long time.
Of course, definitely.
And you're one of my very few rock friends, if you will. And
I'm honored.
But I don't know, before Pop Evil, I wanted to kind of dig in a little bit,
Sure.
find out about you and before Pop Evil. So where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Michigan. I was born in Canada, and I think I must have lived there for a month or two. And then we quickly moved to Michigan, and was raised. I mean, I often say, in stories, that Michigan had a very big role in kind of probably choosing my destiny to decide to do music full time. So it was just freezing for 9 months of the year. So we spent a lot of time indoors. Yeah, I spent a lot of time listening to music, man, listening to records in those early years and dreaming. I was young. I was just I always wanted to kind of have that itch to play in front of people, write songs, and, one thing led to another. And
is your parents musical people? I mean, how did this kind of start?
They weren't really musical as far as playing instruments, but they appreciated it. They were passive listeners, like they'd be listening. My dad and mom listened to the 70s, they listened to the 80s. Obviously, I was growing up in the 80s when I was young, so that was very much a lot of my buddies that I was around, in school and elementary to middle school. We were always listening to music, and obviously growing up on the lake, on the Great Lakes, was always acoustic guitars around. People were always playing instruments, and I remember catching the bug, seeing some of my buddies that were a little bit older, and they would always play the acoustic guitars, and everyone would flock to him. Everyone was always interested in someone that could play the instrument, whether it was just sitting down and listening or whether they were singing along. And I remember just that really, had a romanticized vibe to me. I just really I was really attracted to that. I was like, wow, that would be so cool if I could sing and play, and people were listening to me do that,
Right.
So that kind of, when I was young, I remember having that desire to want that as well, or want that to be able to do that. And I remember in those early years too, I was driving, so I must have been 16 or 17, and the dating thing starts coming out, and you're out there trying to find that partner. I would actually, we would all be looking for girls. I remember ditching my guy buddies because it was so boring, because we couldn't find it. If you couldn't find a girl, it's like, well, I'm going to go home early tonight, and I would just sit home and practice that guitar, man, and just practice and write, and kind of hone my skills. I mean, I wasn't very good in those days, but I was so excited to just kind of just be around it and consume myself in it and just dream it and learn it, and just kind of learn the craft and kind of practice my writing skills and learning how to write songs and, arrange songs and put it together. I just remember those years. I mean, they were dark times, man. It was a lot of no's back in those days.
Yeah.
I mean, still, I guess there's a lot of no's, but, trying to start your band and, everyone, the band eventually was called Pop Evil. So when it was called Pop Evil, obviously, people weren't excited about the name at the time. I grew up in a very conservative Midwestern Michigan area, a very religious Bible Belt area. So, people didn't like those two words put together. So I loved it. You know what I mean? So it was like, well, I love that. They're not digging it.
So mom and dad, they were not musical people, like they didn't play instruments. But so what did your parents do for work?
My dad was a doctor. My dad was a cardiologist. He was always gone. He was always busy. And my mom was she kind of would help him, or she raised us, so we were dialed in. And once we started really getting into school, sports was that big thing.
Okay.
I was just really caught by sports. I always wanted to play, basketball, and I was really talented at every sport. I was a state champion in tennis.
Wow.
All state, all three sports: tennis, football, basketball. So,
Really?
I was just really talented. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I was really dialed with that and really focused. Went to school on full ride scholarships, and then I had an opportunity because I'm dual citizen, so there was a chance there in basketball. I was really talented at basketball. I was averaging 30 a game my senior year. I was really highly recruited. I was going to play for Team Canada for a minute.
Wow.
And I just didn't want to go far away. I was like, look, I wanted to play. To be honest, I wanted to play at Michigan or Notre Dame, or
Right.
Michigan State, somewhere around here. And I got recruited. I got accepted to go. I didn't go actually. I went Division III. Again, my parents weren't really savvy in the sports, but they didn't know. They were first generation in this country, so they didn't know. They didn't have any kind of people that could help them or guide me. I was just like, well, maybe if I go, because I'm short, I'm 5'8", 5'9", generous, right? So I was like, well, maybe if I go D3, I can have a better outcome and I can transfer up. I didn't want, sometimes those bigger schools, they weren't going to give me a full ride. They were giving me partial rides, or they wanted me to walk on even some of them. So I was like, well, I'm not going to do that.
Celebrity Jobber.
6 months from now, you could be running a 5K, booking that dream trip, or seeing thicker, fuller hair every time you look in the mirror. Through Hers, you can get dermatologist-trusted, clinically proven prescriptions with ingredients that go beyond what over-the-counter products offer. Whether you prefer oral or topical treatments, Hers has you covered. Getting started is simple. Just fill out an intake form online, and a licensed provider will recommend a customized plan just for you. The best part? Everything is 100% online. If prescribed, your treatment ships right to your door. No pharmacy trips, no waiting rooms, and no insurance headaches. Plus, treatments start at just $35 a month. Start your initial free online visit today at forhers.com/talk. That's forhers.com/talk. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito.
With your dad being a cardiologist and an educated man, number one, was he supportive of your choice to go into music? And number two, did he ever try to steer you away and say, hey, look, Leigh, that's nice. It's a good hobby. It's a dream, but maybe you should think about maybe going in this direction. Did he ever have that conversation with you?
Yeah, very educated man, but very much focused on himself with that stuff. He didn't know anything about sports or anything about certainly American sports or American. He certainly didn't know anything about music or the music business. So he never really, he was so busy, he was so passionate. If I learned anything, and our song Torn to Pieces is about him. So it's just how the passion he had for his patients, like even on holidays, it was always about his patients. He wanted his people to be healthy. He wanted his people, he cared so much about them that I almost as we got older, it was like, Dad, it's about our family. They're going to be okay. Relax. And it didn't matter. He was just such a kind-hearted man. He didn't care about himself like that. And he didn't really influence me or push me any way or the other. I know my mom was a little bit stricter. She was like, I don't know how long you got to do this and how long you want to do this music. You should try to be a doctor. Or, of course, the cliche jobs. And there was no way I was going to do anything like that. It's just nothing like that really, really moved the needle for me, So music, once I started I went to school, obviously on a basketball scholarship. So I went to school.
Where to? What college did you go to?
I went to Kalamazoo College, in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
K College.
And Division III. Yep, K College, Division III. And I didn't get, you realize quickly, man, that just because it's Division I, II, or III, and obviously this with your son.
Yeah.
Everyone's good.
Yep.
Everyone's good at that
Absolutely.
level. It doesn't matter, and without having, a mother, father who knew about that, you think maybe Division III might be a little lesser, of course it's different competition, of course, but still those seniors that have been there, you're still a freshman and you're still, those guys are sometimes 3 or 4 years older than you and they've been there a long time. You can't really explain that when you're a young kid or a young man kind of graduating. And, I had a great high school career. I was the man. Then you go suddenly to this new environment and you're not the man. So, it really weighed on me. I had to do different things. I was starting to really start to explore my musical side. At that point, it was just really passive. It was just for fun. I think I wanted to just hear myself on a CD in those days. I'd be, really cool to have a CD, play for my buddies. I think it's cool, whatever. And then, once you start doing that, you're like, man, I want to play shows. I want to book shows. So that first year of college, I was playing basketball and I tore my knee real bad. So I tore my ACL. So my sports now, interestingly enough, God was, and whatever religion you're thinking, I'm not trying to, but for me, that was just a sign from God or the higher power that was like, look, this is not going to be your calling, And so I remember dealing with that knee injury. So and then I transferred up to Division II. I'm like, enough. I'm sick of this school. I'm going to go back to Grand Rapids, Michigan, play for Grand Valley State. Jay Smith was coaching University of Michigan at the time. And he transferred. He got the gig now. He was assistant coach at Michigan. And then he got the head gig, I think, at Grand Valley State. So he was working his angle to move up in the career. And I had known him from, him recruiting me a little bit at the University of Michigan. So I was like, well, can I come home, play for you? He goes, sure. And I go, problem though. I just had surgery on my ACL. He goes, well, why don't you come up and play? We'll get it dialed in, because he remembered me from high school, how good a player I was. So he had me all ready to go. I had to sit out a year because I moved up from Division III to Division II.
Right.
So in those days, that was the rule. So I remember sitting out. Then I finally healed up a bit. I'm ready to go. I sat out a whole year. The following year, I come back and he gets promoted. He gets another gig at Central Michigan, which is small Division I school. So he took that job. So I had another coach come up, and again, him and I didn't really get along. I just kind of, in those days too, I wasn't going to class the same way I probably should have.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, I don't got to go to class, man. This is crazy. So I was kind of, I had a little bit of that college experience. I hanging with my homies and that, and we were doing our thing, and I was jamming. I was playing. I was becoming more of a hippie in those days. It was just acoustic guitar. We're on the beach all the time. Grand Haven, Michigan is right on the coast, so we'd be constantly back from Grand Rapids to Grand Haven. The whole, again, it was a different era, right?
Yeah.
It was girls, it was music, it was just rock and roll, and I was doing everything. I was booking the shows. I was learning how to grind the band. I was driving to Kalamazoo doing our records, or Detroit, wherever I was going, and coming back home and playing the shows to pay for it.
So did Pop Evil start for you in college? Was it a college band? Yeah,
it did. It was called 10-5 at the moment. At that time, it was just our dorm room. I had a couple buddies that were in the dorm with us. We just started. We didn't know a name. I'm like, let's just call it 10-5. We were 105, Sweet 105, whatever it was. So, and then of course, as the years go on, that guy ends up not being serious. So no buddies of mine from college are in it anymore. I moved back to Grand Rapids from Kalamazoo, and in those days, Grand Rapids had a pretty big scene. The big band from around my era when it was Verve Pipe. They were from East Lansing. They had all that success, I want to say, in the 90s. And I was right around that.
So I went to Ferris State. I don't know if you know this or not.
Oh, dude, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I went to Ferris State in 1993 and 1994, and I remember Verve Pipe in the very, very beginning stages.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, you remember how big they were in Michigan. They were like the band, you know?
Absolutely, they were. So we're talking about it probably a few years. You're probably a little bit younger than me, so probably talking about a few years past that.
I was in 10th grade when you were Ferris. I was like 10th, 11th grade.
Right on.
Sure. So, yeah. So I get my license, and I remember I wanted to learn how to play the Freshman so bad because in those days, no YouTube, right? So how did you play that? Everyone loved that song. So I wanted to play it, and it was one of the when you're starting early on the guitar, you're playing everyone else's songs, right? You're like, okay, well, let me play that. I got to learn how does he play that. And in those days, unless you figured it out listening to the radio and taping the radio,
right?
Because the Verve Pipe didn't have a CD out at the moment, or they only had like a independent one. So unless you went to their show and got it, there's no way you're going to even hear it unless you heard it on like college radio or something like that.
Right.
So I was back and forth to their shows trying to figure out how he played it, standing right in the front, watching Brian play it, and figuring out where his fingers were going, and come back home and hustling and playing that song till my fingers bled,
Wow. Did you ever get a former relationship with the guys from Verve Pipe?
He's around all the time. I mean, we've been in and out of each other's lives probably, but I wouldn't say I know him or I'm close, but definitely and even when they play still, we go, I mean, Dave, who's my guitar player in my band, we go and try to see just for the fact that it was such a part of our story.
Memories.
But as far as his memories, right? As far as hanging with Brian and the guys, we not so much, but we're never really home.
Right.
We're never really home to do that as much anymore.
What about, Leigh, tell me about, well, first I want to know what your first job was. Very first job ever. Yeah.
Man, I don't remember exactly what the earliest ones, but I remember around that time period, needing money. So I was like, I called all my buddies. I had a manager. I had a close friend that was the manager at Nextel. If you remember that phone carrier.
I do.
It was Nextel at the time. So I remember saying to him, I'm like, hey, man, can I just work? I'm not going to do anything, though. I just basically need to get paid so we can help. He goes, yeah, dial it in. We got people here. They'll all do the agreements for you. Don't worry, because you got to fill out the paperwork and that. I'm like, I'm not filling out that paperwork, bro. You got to help me get this dialed in. So he was like, yeah, no problem. So we had tons of people, and they all were fans of the band. So we were all college kids. So we had guys that were there. They would do my paperwork, help me get paid, and I'd just hook them up with free tickets. They'd come and roll and hang with us. You know what I'm saying? So it was like a trade-off. So I could get paid on there, and I would then take that money and just put it right back into Pop
Right.
So I'd book shows like, well, they're selling phones out of the thing. I got my Nextel blue shirt on, khakis on, and I'm booking shows for Pop Evil, getting us, trying to get us X amount of money a month just so I could keep the lights on for the band, and we could keep it rolling, and pay for the. I think we had a Tahoe. I paid for the car payment and the trailer payment.
Wow.
So we could keep going and get it dialed.
That's
and
awesome.
then it started to grow. So then that was we did that from 98 till around 2001.
Oh, wow.
So November 16, 2001, we had a ginormous show, local show. It was like a battle of the bands, right? It was the biggest look. And whoever played the show, they get one song. The radio stations back in those days, you'll probably remember just from your knowledge at radio. The GRD was the station, and they put out a local spin CD from this show. So if you were a band that played the show, you could submit one of your songs on that. It would be called the GRD bootleg 09 or whatever it was. And every band that played on that particular Battle of the Bands could put one of their songs on that CD. So they would release it every year around Christmas.
Right.
And every one of those days would buy that CD. So that was huge exposure for us. That was like, the bragging piece. Like, oh my gosh, like, did you get the bootleg CD, GRD bootleg? We were on it, man. It's so cool. And, so that was like, before getting record deals, from a local perspective, that was everything. That was like what we worked for.
That was like, I don't want to say your big
Holy
break.
Grail.
It wasn't, it wasn't your big break,
but it was our local break.
Celebrity Jobber.
6 months from now, you could be running a 5K, booking that dream trip, or seeing thicker, fuller hair every time you look in the mirror. Through Hers, you can get dermatologist-trusted, clinically proven prescriptions with ingredients that go beyond what over-the-counter products offer. Whether you prefer oral or topical treatments, Hers has you covered. Getting started is simple. Just fill out an intake form online, and a licensed provider will recommend a customized plan just for you. The best part? Everything is 100% online. If prescribed, your treatment ships right to your door. No pharmacy trips, no waiting rooms, and no insurance headaches. Plus, treatments start at just $35 a month. Start your initial free online visit today at forhers.com/talk. That's forhers.com/talk. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito.
You know, your big break, you know, when people say that.
We thought that would be our big break.
A lot of people, though, you know, in the real sense of the big break, it's a lot of small breaks. It's a lot of mini breaks along the way, 100%. Which that one was definitely one of them. Can you think of another?
One of the milestones.
Can you think of the milestone?
Yeah, the milestone that then changed it. I'll give you a fast version of this. So then, you know, that thing leads to the now. So right around 06, I get this idea, you know, I'm fighting with some band members at the time because they want to save money and record in our garage, and I want to go to Detroit and start networking, working with people. And, you know, that therefore, you know, I would always fight with my old, I call it my old school mentality from some of these guys I used to play with. I'd be like, guys, like, who are you going to meet in our garage?
Right.
Like, this business is all about who you meet. Like, you gotta go meet people. And they're like, no, but we don't have no money. I'm like, well, dude, that's not, let's just go play some shows. Let's save it. You know, so I remember then band members changed and came in. It's always when you're an owner of a band, it's always evolving, because if you don't see eye to eye with people and the visionaries in the band, then they got to go. And even if you don't want them to go, they end up going, you know, because like if you don't see where the vision is, then you got to go. So I remember I got some other guys in and I'm like, look, we're going to go to record with Kid Rock's guys, you know? So we went and I took a meeting with Al Sutton, who had done a bunch of the early Kid Rock stuff, a lot of success. And he is pretty much Detroit Rock City. I mean, I love Al. He's incredible. He's done us, obviously. He did him and Marlon. Marlon is Kid Rock's, Marlon Young is Kid Rock's guitar player. They did the Greta Van Fleet stuff when they broke. You know, they started my stuff in the early days. It was just, that was where you went. You know what I mean? In Detroit, they ooze and scream that Southern rock. Or it's almost like that Southern sound that is Detroit.
Right.
Like they are a big part of that. They are it. You know. So obviously, I was a huge fan of what they did. I went down there, and I remember I was like, "Can you record a couple songs for me?" And you know, I have X amount of money. Can you do 1 or 2 songs? And they're like, "Well, we're in the middle of doing this Rock and Roll Jesus album," and we're like, "Well, what is that?" You know, obviously, then it's a really big album for Kid Rock, but they kept putting me on hold. So we went there and we did a song, and it was Somebody Like You was a song that unfortunately never got released. It was on our first album, but we never released it as a single, and that caught the attention of GRD. So that was like that first big break, that as soon as we got it, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that meeting, but just to give you the big landscape thing, we recorded a song called Somebody Like You. Finally, our first song that really sounded like a radio hit song. You know, it really sounded like anything else that was on. The production was on point with anything else that was out at the time. You know, so it was like, wow, we sound like a real band now. This is incredible. You know, you get the chills. You start hearing it. You're like, now the dream's starting to come together. You're like, wow, this. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can sound like a real pro band here. This is incredible. And so then, you know, shortly after that, I caught the attention of our manager, who we have to this day. You know, and I remember, but the manager wanted another song. So I remember calling Al in Detroit I think it took over a year, you know, and finally he couldn't. He's like, I can't get you in, man. I'm with Kid Rock. We're doing this Rock and Roll Jesus. I can't get you in. And so I'm in limbo for a year trying to sign my deal with my managers to move my band forward, but they want to hear another song. So they're basically waiting for me. So we go in finally and we drop the song 155.
Wow.
And, you know, then the game changes.
There it was.
We never look back.
And the manager you speak of to this day, the one and only George Capolini.
That's the man.
That's the one.
So he came. So it's a funny story with George. So we're managed by George Jr. and George Sr., right? So I remember George Jr. at the time is working as an independent radio rep for Island Def Jam in the Midwest. So and he lives in Detroit. So Grand Rapids is, if you don't know, is about 3 hours west of Detroit for the people listening. About two and a half if you're driving fast. So it's not that close.
If you're driving 155 here.
150, then you're getting there in an hour. Then you're there in an hour. But you got to. So every now and then I'm trying to get George. He's over at GRD and he's in Grand Rapids. So you know we're the big fish at the small pond at the moment. Like we're packing cover bars, we're playing covers, we're making good money, cover bar money. We're really, I mean, we're young, we're college kids. I mean, we were definitely one of the biggest bands on the scene at the time in GR. I mean, of course, doesn't mean anything to these radio guys as I start to understand the game years later. Nobody cares about that. But for a band when you're local, that's a big thing to try to get a break. And so finally, George would come in. I'd be like, hey, we're playing The Intersection or whatever the show it was. Can you come watch? Maybe come check us out, blah, blah, blah. And of course, it was always no, no, no. Finally, he starts coming. Yes, yes. We have 155. He hears. He's like, wait a minute. He goes, we got to take a meeting. We got to talk to my dad. And I'm like, look, bro, we can talk to my dad too. But I had no, I'm like, well, let's just get this thing done. Let's get this thing signed on the dotted line. Let's roll, And he's like, nah. So I remember we get this phone call, and it's senior and junior both on the phone with me. I don't know who they are at all. And the first thing not even schmooze talk. It's not even, so what are you guys up to? But it's just immediately, and you'll think this is funny because you know them both so well. The first thing out of their mouth is, we want to sign you.
Wow.
It's not even any around it, we want to sign you.
And coming from,
blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
coming from the old man, that's pretty big,
Yeah, coming from the old man. But again, I don't know who he is at the moment. I don't know what he does. And I don't know what getting signed from a manager means. All I know is in my head, I need a record label to change my life.
Right.
You know what I mean? Thank God they did it the right way, because you need a manager. You don't need a record label. You need people that believe in you.
Absolutely.
But I didn't know that at the time. So I remember getting off the phone, and my brother is part manager as well, and he's also an entertainment attorney.
Oh,
so I call
perfect.
my brother up, and I'm like, what do I do here? What does this mean? And he's like, wow, this is, but at the moment, he's just getting started. He just passed the bar. He's just in law school. He's just finishing all that stuff up and really becoming that lawyer. So he's still very new to that. So I call a program director friend of mine up, who's the program director at the top 40 station at 104.5 here in Grand Rapids. And I go, who is George Capellini Sr.?
Huh.
And he goes, well, Tiger Woods to golf, because all we did back then was golf. That's
Right.
all we did was golf. We just golfing and playing rock shows, and
Right.
and I go, well, yeah. He goes, Tiger Woods to golf, and I'm like, well, of course. He goes, well, that's what Rock Senior is to rock radio.
Yeah.
And I'm like, George Senior, and I go, wow, do you think we should sign? He goes, I would. And then our life changed. We signed, and that was it.
Wow. Now,
Yeah.
ever a backup plan, Lee? Ever?
Never was.
Never once.
Never.
Because
Never one backup plan.
It's common for when you're young, and you shouldn't have a backup plan when you're young. You should just be like, the dream, keep fighting, keep swinging, keep trying to. So things just kind of progressed for you. Was there ever a period, like a lag, where you were like kind of second guessing, like, I don't know, man, maybe I should think about moving in another direction. Things aren't really, moving as fast as I wanted them to.
It's funny, I never really thought about backup plans. If I do, then I think of a backup plan. Oh yeah, maybe I'll do this. But it never got to the point. And always the lags. As soon as and I've had a lot of lags. I get lags even now with the band. It's like, okay, do I really want to do this now? Because we're all doing real estate now, and just all my boys are we're making mad money. It's like, dude, and it's fun for me because it's different.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, do I really want to keep doing this story? But every time you have that one thing that gets you back, you're like, yeah, this is what I love to do. So I think it's just like any other business, right? You or any other job. You end up, you have those moments. It's hard. Let's be real. The landscape of being a band, or certainly having success at radio and being a radio band, and how radio's changed and streaming, and touring. It's just, and then you throw the pandemic in there. There's been so many times I've thought about just being like, okay, look, maybe I need to do something else, at least on the side,
right.
and just all the time, like your love, you just feel like something's just been infused in me, probably at birth, and I was just always born to chase this. I don't even know born to do this is the right word. It's just born to chase this.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. Celebrity Jobber.
And you said you're doing
always
real
chasing
estate?
that next song.
Did all of you guys in the band?
I am, yeah.
Oh, wow,
no, I don't know if all the other guys. Are doing it. I'm trying to get them more involved. It's still pretty new for me as well. But like, a lot of my best friends that I grew up with we're doing really well at real estate. So they are always bringing me, and we're looking at houses, we're walking them, or I'm a good designer with, so I'm designing them for them. dial them in, invest them, we're dialing more. So I'm going to be doing a lot more of that as we move forward. But it's just fun to do. Right now I'm kind of in that stage where I'm learning with them. I'm right there on their shoulders, and we're doing it together. But we're not using as much as my money. I'm using their money.
Right.
What I mean? So I'm like, let me do it if we do that. So it's cool, and they bonus me. They'll dial it in. I'll help them. But now it's getting to the point where it's like, all right, look, I can do this. Let's roll, have some fun with it. And even down your way. We've loved, I was out there with a couple of my boys down in Florida, a little bit, and I got family in Tampa. So it's like, we've talked about it a little bit in Florida. We talked about it in California. Obviously, the Midwest is it's just good. You can really find some good deals.
Yeah, you can.
As well.
Wow.
So it's been fun to kind of just talk the talk with my guys. And obviously, when you got buddies that are in it that can kind of tee it up for you and
no doubt
walk you in the door and kind of help show you kind of the ropes. It's been fun to kind of learn that. And in turn, I have them out with me on tour, and we're talking about deals as we're out on tour or in that city. We're like, hey, we're in Vermont today. Let's go look at some houses.
That's
so instead
cool.
of like going to the bar drinking, we're walking houses.
That's cool,
what I mean?
man. You're a pretty focused guy. Let's talk about this. Man, I had no idea. Like I said, we've known each other for a long time. I had no idea a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Tell me,
Absolutely.
New album, heavier than any other Pop Evil album, is what I hear.
So excited about this album. I'm so excited about this lineup, this new era of the band. I mean, COVID was, as much as that was a bad thing, it was one of the best things that could have happened to us personally, because it really weeded out the fat for us all. And not just around people and things that are around the band, with ourselves and where our mind was with the band. It was like, whoa. Once we lost it for a minute, it was like, whoa, we don't ever want to be in that position again. We want to work harder to respect our fans, make sure that we give them the best version of ourselves, put everything centered around that live show, right? So we're listening to our band. I mean, they want that heavier side of Pop Evil. I mean, they want it. They want the guitars heavy. They want the guitars, with energy, and they want to come see that on stage. Now, that doesn't mean we can't have respect to where we've been and where we come from. Definitely, Pop Evil with my voice carries over. That's the tie that binds, right? But being able to explore these younger bands that we've toured with, these younger bands that we're writing with and just being around, it's just incredible the drive that they have, different from when we came up, right? Like we came up still in some of that party era. These younger bands are so focused. They're all about being healthy, eating healthy,
right,
being clean, making sure they understand their technology, taking their sounds and running with them, rather than just that one sound. You plug your guitar into the amp, whatever it is your sound. Like you can do so many things to manipulate it, to enhance it, to create more melody that your singer can write around. I mean, once you get a different sound, it could lead to a whole different melody, a whole different concept. So taking that, it started off with just kind of just seeing where my head was at writing, and then it just ended up being like, this album ended up being like a therapy session of just letting all those things that were personal around me that I've hidden, buried for so long, a chance to come out. Even you hear that on our first single with What Remains. I mean, you take all that negativity around you your whole life and you strip it down to the core, what's left, yourself. And what version of yourself that you decide to move forward with is up to you. And then you take our latest one, the video we just dropped with Death Walk. I mean, realizing that we're all walking towards that final day here on the earth, or to judgment, whatever you want to look at. What legacy do you want to leave? What story do you want to leave behind? What do you want to leave for your kids? What do you want to leave for your family behind to be proud of? Or do you want to just walk like a zombie towards it? What do you want to leave behind? It's if we're all going to face that day of judgment one day, how about we kill that old version of ourselves, that negative version, those things we don't like about the things when we look in the mirror, what's looking back? What if we can just say, hey, we can start today. We have an opportunity, if you have tomorrow, to change.
Wow.
And change that. And just kind of like looking in the mirror for myself personally, writing lyrics that I normally have been a little more afraid to write in the past albums, because I don't like writing about myself. Obviously, most people don't. It's easier to write about someone else. But really trying to just squeeze that healing out of my own personal well-being to hopefully help someone else down the road. It just was fun. It just kind of turned into more of a concept album as we started to go, and just kind of dialed in. And with the album now on the horizon here, hopefully in early 2025, I mean, just couldn't be more proud, man. It's certainly heavier. The themes are darker, and you're just only going to push forward off that. It's going to take this momentum and just kind of obviously listen to our fans along the way. Hopefully they like it as much as we do.
Man, I got to tell you, after all of these years, there were so many things I learned about you in this, 20 some odd minute, 30-minute conversation.
I love that.
I mean, it was so many great things, though. And let me just say this for opening up and telling me this kind of stuff. It's just like you mentioned about writing about yourself is difficult. You write about other people, but when you do put yourself out there, when you do an interview and you tell people, yeah, COVID, I had some mental health issues, or, talking about, Torn to Pieces is about your father. When you get personal like that and you put yourself out there, people are, you're relatable to regular people, and that helps a lot of regular people. So you're doing something really good by opening up, and even though people don't deserve to know those things, it's a good thing, and I think you'll see the response and the people that become fans of your music. So very, very cool. Very cool stuff.
Oh, thank you for sure. We're all dealing with things, man, no doubt about it. And like you said, when people can relate to people that they think have perfect lives, they realize that we don't. We're just as normal as the next guy or the next girl. I think it brings it closer to home, and it makes it more relatable, like you said.
Absolutely.
So, obviously, it's definitely a little more vulnerable to talk and have these songs be a little bit more about my personal story. But like you said, I hope that it really resonates with the fans and helps heal someone else.
Man, cool.
Everyone at some point needs a little bit of healing, man. They do. And to be able to have music help the way it's helped me is I think the best gift you can do is give a little back.
Leigh, thank you so much. I do. I really appreciate your time. Your time is valuable, and you're always very generous with me, and I appreciate it.
You're one of my favorite people in the biz, man. So anything you need, always, I'm going to try to get it done. So thank you for the support always on the years, and best of luck with this podcast. It's been amazing, and I'm just honored to be a part of it.
Leigh Kakaty, it's one of my favorite things to do is a podcast with a real friend of mine because, over the years, you don't ask them these in-depth questions about themselves, and so literally you don't have any idea about really what makes them tick, and where everything came from. I know very little about Leigh's personal life because he is so private, and I really respect that. Opening up today to tell me about his athletic ambitions at an early age. I had no idea that he went to school on a basketball scholarship and lettered in high school in tennis, football, and basketball. I had no idea. Went on a full ride for basketball to K College in Kalamazoo, then Grand Valley State, and, talked a little bit about music and how it seemed like the guy playing the guitar at the party and the people would just gravitate towards this guy. A lot of people say that's kind of what got them into music. And the band Pop Evil forming while he was in college, his first job, I don't know if it was his first job, but it was one that he really remembered, working at Nextel, where he had kind of a friend in the business, so he wasn't writing up the orders, he was doing the selling. And as you can tell, Leigh is a pretty good salesperson. I can see if music ends for him and he has to go into the working world, being a sales guy, probably not a bad way to make a living. Not to mention, he knows how to golf. He's a pretty good golfer. So there you go. Those two things usually work out pretty well. And he is in the world of real estate now, which I had no idea, kind of dabbles in that. Some old friends from high school or college that he is now, kind of collaborating with in the world of real estate. And I think that is so cool. So Leigh talked about his parents. Father was from India and a cardiologist here in the United States. And I asked whether or not his parents supported his musical dream. He said that them being first generation, they weren't really savvy in American sports or music. Leigh talked about his mother being a little strict with him, wanting him to get that job of, being a doctor or lawyer, but not for him. As you could tell with his desire, his drive, Leigh would have been pretty successful in just about everything that he would have done. But, with Pop Evil, such songs like Trenches, Footsteps, Torn to Pieces, brand new album that's out right now, What Remains. Definitely one of the heavier Pop Evil albums that I've heard in a long time. It's doing very well out there, so if you're a big fan of rock music, you want to check out Pop Evil's latest album, What Remains, in stores now. And thank you so much for checking out yet another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. Number 2 this week on the music interviews chart on Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much. Please subscribe. Would love a 5-star rating and leave a review. Plus, you can follow on Instagram, celebrity_jobber_podcast, or youtube.com/the@celebrityjobber. Leigh Kakaty, rock and roll singer by day, real estate tycoon by night. Well, I should probably say it the other way around, right? Rock stars don't play shows during the day. Thank you so much again for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. I'll see you next week. Thanks again. I'm Jeff Zito.